Welcome to History for 6th grade, lesson 134. We're going to be looking at pages 259 to 261. And there's also a quiz 30. So you may pause the video and go ahead and take the quiz if you're prepared for that. And if you would like to wait till the end of the video or your parents don't have the quiz out, you may do that. All right, so we are advancing towards freedom, and I'm just going to ask a couple questions from the Comprehension Check. The name given to President Reagan's idea or position against communism, what was that name? Yes, it was the Reagan Doctrine. That was his position that declared how he felt about communism. And then, who was the first woman's justice ever appointed to the Supreme Court? Ms. Sandra Day O'Connor. And I did mention this yesterday or in the last lesson, but does anyone remember the year that she retired from being the Supreme Court Justice? 2006. And then just this last one, the tragedy that shocked the nation in 1986 and interrupted the space program. It was the explosion of the Space Shuttle Challenger. And as we moved forward as a country, the next president was George H.W. Bush. So this is George W. Bush's father. And he was president from in 1988. He became president, and he was committed to continuing the job that Reagan had started. He wanted to destroy communism as well as Reagan did, and so in August of 1990, there was a cruel dictator of Iraq, Saddam Hussein, and he invaded a tiny oil-rich country called Kuwait. And when he invaded Kuwait, the other Arab nations were worried that he was going to invade them as well. And so they, and of course Israel was worried that he was going to come for them to destroy them, and they had actually heard that he had been developing an atomic bomb, and of course Saddam Hussein is Arab, and the Arabs hate the Israelites, and so they have this long feud that's been going on, and so they have this there's always unrest over there. There's always a talk of somebody building a bomb or aiming a missile, and it's really can be scary over there, but the Israeli forces work to defend their country, and America has been a friend of Israel, and we have been in the past, and I know that that's kind of shaky right now, but I pray that we continue to be, or if we're not right now, that we would go back to being their friends, because that they are still God's people, and so we don't want to abandon them. But the fightings that happened over there, we started with Operation Desert Storm was the name of that they started. They called it to begin with. That was they wanted to go in and just attack and annihilate the communists that were there, and that was the idea. It's now known as the Persian Gulf War because it wasn't just one operation. It did turn into many more battles, and we fought on such a high-tech war with all the technology, the nuclear weapons, and our Air Force and the stealth fighters. we had such a way of fighting this war that Saddam Hussein was not prepared for. He did not envision us coming in like we did. And, you know, he was, the President Bush was sure that this battle needed to be fought. The decisions for the battle needed to be made on the battlefield, not by politicians that weren't there, because the soldiers that were there knew how to fight and win a war. They were trained for that. But politicians, not some of them may have served, but they're not all trained to fight. And so he placed General Colin Powell in charge. And I've got his name up here, General Colin Powell. And he was in charge until he was second in command, just under the president, over military operations. And he worked very hard, and he actually was wounded in battle and received the Purple Heart and had to come home. And then General Norman Schwarzkopf became the next leader, and he was also a great leader. He inspired devotion in his men and loyalty. And this was the first time since World War II that the U.S. Congress followed the wise counsel of the military commander and allowed them to make those decisions, and which is incredible, because remember, we've had with Douglas MacArthur, General Douglas MacArthur, he was told, no, you can't win this war. And then in Vietnam, we were told we can't win the war. And so this was a big change from what the Congress had been saying to now. Within a few days of the battle, American troops with British and French troops were able to liberate or free Kuwait and push Saddam Hussein back to Baghdad. And this war only lasted for 2.5 months. And it is the shortest war our nation has ever fought. But it proved to be only the beginning of a long struggle against Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein then reached out to Soviet Union, and they were so they were not really in a position to help, because they had, if you remember back to when President Reagan was in office, he had fought against the Soviet Union, and they were torn as a country. They were not united under communism anymore, but the Communist Party were afraid of losing that control, and so they attempted a military coup, and that was their attempt to overthrow the government. But the revolt was quickly put down by Boris Yeltsin, and he had resigned from the Communist Party only weeks before this. He was communist, but then he decided that he did not want to be a part of that Communist Party anymore. Gorbachev, who was the military, or the leader that the military coup was going up against, he resigned, and the Soviet Union collapsed as a nation. Most of those republics that were part of the Soviet came together at that time and have a loose organization, kind of an alliance among each other, and they call themselves the Commonwealth of Independent States. That has changed a little bit, and we'll probably look at that a little bit later on that. So communism was defeated at this point, but it wasn't dead. This is a struggle that has been going on for years, as we've seen. And so they still control China, North Korea, Cuba, they remain active in Eastern Europe. And one of the things that Christians have done in the time since the Soviet Union collapsed, because before that, they were not allowing Christians to come into the Soviet Union. Even they would limit who could come in, and they didn't allow Christians to come in as missionaries and really be a part or to help the people. And so there was an open door as soon as that collapsed for missionaries to go in, and now we've got missionaries that have been helping and preaching the gospel and spreading Christ to these people that have been persecuted for so long. And you're going to read some of that, and so go ahead and you can read pages 259 to 261, answer the comprehension check on paper, and there is a CCU, CCU 14, section A, number 10, and B, 1 through 5 on notebook paper. For this time that we're doing the online, I just wanted to mention to you guys that we won't be doing the Geography Bowl. Hold your applause, please. And we won't be doing current events. They're a little difficult to do at this time. When we do return to school, we'll pick those up and get to enjoy those again. But you may go ahead and work on that, and we will talk with you next time.